Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni wanji, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so delighted and so very honored that you join us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to tell all of your family and friends about the show. Please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Stitcher Radio, wherever you find your podcast. Join us right now from right outside of our nation's capital in Northern Virginia. Our guests are here today to celebrate their debut picture book. Please welcome to the show first, Karen Honaker. Karen, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I am wonderful. I can't wait to speak to you and your co-author and co-twin, Kathy Honaker. Kathy, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you.
I'm really excited. Today we're talking about Traveling Tootsies. Kathy, can you give us a little overview about this book?
Oh, sure. Well, Traveling Tootsie was actually based on a childhood memory. So Karen and I actually had our own Traveling Tootsie growing up. So when we started talking about writing a children's book, this idea came to our minds, and we thought, this is something that we loved to do as kids, and we thought this would make a great book, and we could hopefully inspire other kids to, travel and have a Traveling Tootsie like we did.
So, Karen, what is this Traveling Tootsie? Was it like a pair of socks? Was it a favorite doll? Something you were smuggling into another country?
Well, we did smuggle it into our parents' room. Our dad traveled quite a bit, and when we saw the suitcase open on the bed, we would sneak in there, and our dad always put his dress shoes in the little kind of shoe bags in his suitcase. And so we would sneak in there, and we had a little yellow teddy bear, and we would sneak Traveling Tootsie down in the toes of his shoe, which is kind of how we got the name Tootsie. And so we would sneak in, and we would stick Tootsie in his shoes, and we would, run away giggling. And so when he came home, it was always so fun to just say, where were you when you found Tootsie? And it was a way for our dad to share where he had been and what he had seen, and it would help us learn a little bit about the different cities that he went to, because he traveled all over the place. So it was a great way to bring it home and share the story.
I love that. And as somebody who did a lot of traveling when my kids were growing up, they didn't sneak in a Traveling Tootsie into my bag, but they would oftentimes sneak something into the bag, or definitely made sure they put their favorite pictures or something that they drew for me into the bag. And it was, I have to tell you, as somebody that was on the road and going to a place like Northern Virginia and being excited about doing the work, but also missing my family, it was wonderful to open up the bag and to find a picture or find something that my kids put in there, and just letting me know that they were thinking of me.
Oh, I love that.
I know. That's so nice. That's great.
Yeah.
And well, you always want to jump in the suitcase with you, so it is nice to add something or send something, and well, that's great.
Well, the thing, I used to joke about this a lot. When my daughter was in her teens, in high school, she went to a very unique international high school here in Boston. And because most of the kids at the school were international students, they had a very different schedule. They would have most of March and most of December off instead of having a vacation here and a vacation there. They'd just have a month off so they could travel home. And so my daughter would be home. I remember the first year, my daughter was like, what am I going to do? All my school buddies are going to be away around the world, and all my buddies in the neighborhood are going to be at school. What am I going to do? And I said, well, do you want to come out on tour with me? And so that was for 4 years and a little bit longer. That was our thing. She would come out and go on tour with me for 2 or 3 weeks at a time. And I would always joke with people like, can you imagine being 16 years old and choosing to get into a van with your dad and travel around the country for 3 weeks?
No.
I have a 16-year-old. No.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
But what priceless memories. I think that's what's so important too about in us wanting to capture things that, you now as adults, you look back on your childhood and you're like, wow, we had these opportunities or these times with our parents or these connections as a family. And that's special. That's really special.
Well, Kathy, I agree. It was special. It was really wonderful. And I know that those same kind of memories and those feelings are probably, Karen, what inspired you guys to write Traveling Tootsies.
Definitely. That was, kind of looking back on our childhood, that was a really fun, special memory. And we took it even further with our dad was very into photography. And so, here we're aging ourselves, but we'd, after we got the film developed and, all that, how long it took, but, we would set up the slide projector and, we do our little shadow animals in the light. And I mean, sometimes we pop popcorn, but it was almost like movie night. And so then my dad would share the pictures that he took. And so it was a way for us to see where he had been. And it carried the memory even further. And I think, having that visual aspect and it created more connection and it was also why it was so important to us to have the right illustrator and have the right pictures, because the pictures or the slides that we were able to look at later just added more to the story and continued it. And, it made it a family memory, not just our memory. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Kathy, Karen did age herself and me, referring to, going to that little, was it Photomart, that little kiosk?
Right.
Can you imagine being in that kiosk in the middle of a parking lot?
All those
crazy people driving around. I mean, talk about being in fear for your life most of the day. But for those of you who are much younger, yes, back in the day, we would have a limited number of pictures that we could take, not 12,000, usually 12 or 24 pictures, and then you'd have to take them to this little magical box in a parking lot somewhere, and then a couple of days later they would come back to you either as prints or slides, which were really magical. And Kathy, things are different now. We joke. I mean, I can go out and take, kids these days are taking a bazillion pictures of what they're eating for lunch. But I don't know, and I don't miss those days of going to the Photomart, but it seems that those pictures that we took back then, they were special because they were so rare, because there were so few of them, and because we had to really, curate's not the word, but we really had to think about what we were going to take a picture of. You'd never take a picture of a half-eaten cheeseburger 35 years ago.
Wouldn't waste that one.
No, but I don't know I don't know about you, but I'm thinking back. There are some pictures that I remember that I have a slide of somewhere here in my house that was special because it was so unique.
Well, and I think you're right. It wasn't, there was, you weren't taking, like you said, 50 pictures of, something, trying to get the perfect one and the perfect picture and the perfect this and, the instant gratification and I think that's what was exciting about it. You'd go and you'd get that envelope and you'd open it up and be like, oh, this one turned out great. Or, oh my goodness, we joked around. My mom used to take pictures where she would almost chop everyone's bodies off and it was just the head and we would laugh and, but we didn't know that until we went and picked up the pictures. And so. that was special.
Yeah,
And you had to finish the whole roll before you could get them. And like you said, you didn't want to waste them because you only got 12 to 24. It wasn't an endless supply like we have now.
Yeah. Tell me, Karen, where do we go anywhere when we're reading Traveling Tootsie with our kids?
Traveling Tootsie goes to Washington, D.C. So we said what better place to start than the nation's capital. We moved here when we were in high school. So we've been here quite a while. And we thought this is a great place for Traveling Tootsie to start. So you can see and learn about all the scenes in DC. It was very difficult to narrow them down, I will tell you that, because there's so much to see and do here. But that is where Traveling Tootsie goes and then comes back and tells the kids all about it.
Yeah. Kathy, one of the things that I love about DC is that almost everything is free to get into.
Isn't that amazing? That is amazing. You walk into those Smithsonian museums and, you get to just walk in. It's amazing. It really is. And, even going to the monuments, walking up to them and seeing them and, just how big they are. And, it's all free walking around. It's such a walkable city and, with it not being high rises, the views that you can see all the way down to the Capitol and it's a pretty incredible city.
Yeah. And I love too, I think that not only when I would visit with my kids, but I think as families are visiting Washington, D.C. with Traveling Tootsie, it'd be a great way just to start a conversation about our nation and what it is today and what it was meant to be, and even more importantly, what it can become in the future.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, we're in a weird time right now, and it's almost there is some magic of being there and seeing, the National Archives, seeing the Supreme Court, seeing the monuments of those that started our country. It's a pretty powerful feeling there.
It really is. It really is. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think too, we're living in a time that seems that we're more divided than we've ever been as a nation. But I'm pretty old. I'm approaching 100, and I've studied a little bit of history, and I know that there were times in our nation's history where things were just as contentious and as divided, but still we were able to survive and we're able to do some really wonderful things, and have been a really, I think overall, a really positive influence in the world. And I think hopefully, as we're talking with our kids about some of our nation's faults and what we need to do to work together to make it better, I think that's that hope that we can make it better, that we have grown as a nation, that we've changed and things are better for people. I think that's going to give our kids hope to go out there and do the work that we need to do to actually live up to the promise of America.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, I think that's even what's so important about the traveling and, realizing the freedoms that we have and, freedom to go almost anywhere. And, and then even if you get a passport and being able to leave the country and come back and, we have so much here then that I also want my children to realize, what a great country it is and what freedoms we have and, what an amazing, special place it is to be able to live and grow up here. And, but, we definitely want to protect that and honor that and pass that down to our children.
Yeah. And Kathy, you mentioned something, it just kind of nonchalantly that everybody takes for granted. But we all have the ability to go out and get a passport and leave the country, which is something, I don't know a percentage of the world, but there's a big percentage of the world that they can't do that.
Right.
Yeah. Karen, you were both mentioning that you moved to Washington, D.C. when you were teenagers in high school. And I read in your bio that you moved from suburban Chicago. What was it like going from the really cold, windy city down to D.C.? What a culture shock!
Oh, good old Naperville.
Yeah, we grew up in Naperville outside Chicago, and we had been in the same school system since kindergarten and same friends since then, and it was quite a shock. And we have an older brother that he stayed in Chicago, so we moved to DC, and thank God we had each other.
Yes.
It was, yeah, I mean, whole new world. And then it's funny, I went back there for grad school and Kathy came to visit and she's like, it's freezing here, and it's amazing what you just get used to. And then moved to DC. It was strange.
Oh, the history, very
remember
different.
our very first day, there was like, school got canceled because there was so much rain from a hurricane. And we were like, what?
Yes, I remember being down in D.C. To do a school show and getting a call at 5 o'clock in the morning saying, school's canceled. And I go, what in the world happened? They said, well, it might snow.
Yeah.
It might snow.
That sounds exactly like,
That's DC. Yep.
So I'm wondering, Kathy, you're twins. Was there always a dream to write a children's book together?
I'm trying to remember back from. I feel like it was more Karen's idea that we got started. We did take a class, because I think we were interested in it. We talked about it. We took a class about writing children's books and. But both of us with our busy schedules and kids and everything, it kind of went to the back burner for a while. And I mean, I give Karen all the credit for getting the spark back, with us. And we're like, we're going to do this. We are going to do this, and I think that's it kind of one of the amazing, as horrible and awful as COVID was for many, many reasons. It did free up some of our busy lives and we were able to concentrate and have a little more time together and a little more time over the phone. And, so it's been a long, long time coming and, we're just thrilled that it finally actually happened and, that we can hold the book in our hands. It's incredible.
Yeah. So Karen, as the instigator of Traveling Tootsies, now that it's finished, are you sitting there thinking, oh, this is amazing. I love it. We're going to do a bunch of these books together. Or are you sitting back going, Kathy, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I'll never ask you to do that again.
It was so our dad was a journalist and a writer. So I think there's that little spark in us that has been also, this has fueled a little bit of a fire for us. I mean, it was like Kathy said, it was just sort of a little dream to get it published. And now there's this feeling of, Traveling Tootsie might have to go somewhere else. There's lots of places Traveling Tootsie could go. So our dream is to keep going. So
awesome. Awesome. Hey, Kathy, I'm curious, Karen just mentioned that your dad was a journalist, and unlike a professional magician who gets to pick where he goes, for the most part, journalists don't get that, and they're assigned to go places. What was the scariest place that your dad was sent to write about?
Oh my goodness. I'm trying to remember. I think, and well, I guess I could look at it as scary in different ways. I remember when I think he absolutely loved it and it was amazing. But I think for us it was scary because it was so far. But I remember an amazing trip that he went all the way to Singapore.
Wow.
And then we were like, you're going where? And, I remember being kind of frightened or scared or thinking you're going there and it's so far away. But then it was an amazing thing where he came back and I can visually, he took a few pictures. I can visualize them, and he ended up saying just what an amazing place it was and how friendly everybody was. And so I think that was definitely a case where I was like scared about where it was going, but then we ended up learning so much about it that it was not, then it was not scary. That's in the end.
Yeah, cool. Karen, before we go, you mentioned that you're looking for Traveling Tootsie to travel to a bunch of different places. Any places in mind that you can give us a preview of?
Well, we did mention our roots, where they're from. So, Traveling Tootsie has to go to Chicago.
Yes.
I mean, I think we still land at O'Hare or Midway and feel a piece of home there. I mean, it's just, It is. And I do think we both had one special trip. We went alone. We couldn't do a family vacation that year, and I got to go to California and Kathy got to go to Boston. Mm-hmm. So those are on the list too. But I think we both feel like we might want to start with our roots in Chicago and go from there.
Well, that makes perfect sense. Yeah. It also makes perfect sense, Kathy, for us to tell everybody where they can go, where they can travel to find out more about Traveling Tootsie and find out more about you.
Well, yeah, we do. We do have a website. And, of course, we've got travelingtootsie.com. We've got Instagram. We've got Facebook. We did do a little book signing, and somebody bought the book. And we actually now even have little Tootsie Bears that we're starting to sell. And she told us she was going to take a trip to South Carolina. And so we were talking about, you're going to have to post where you were. And so, it would be great to one day even kind of start seeing Traveling Tootsies all over and seeing folks, post about where their travels are taking them. I think it really creates, I love when you meet somebody and you get some sort of connection about maybe where you went or where you live, hearing about Boston. I had some great trips there, and it's like, you find that connection through it. So
awesome.
Hopefully, travelingtootsie.com and our Instagram and our Facebook will really inspire some of that.
Yeah, and I really hope that people will go out there and get inspired to get their own Traveling Tootsies and post pictures of where they go. And also might be fun to post pictures of where they hide Traveling Tootsie.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
That'd be really fun.
Love that. Yeah. I love that. And then I feel too, like, for the kids that can't go anywhere right now, then you can sure learn about it. Right. I think I read a quote one time, a great quote about, books will take, it was something about, if you can't go anywhere, you can still go somewhere with a book.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, we love books. They're like magical time machines. They can take you to different places and take you back in time and also help you imagine what the future is going to be like.
Mm-hmm.
And I am imagining a future where Kathy and Karen Honaker are going to return to talk about the second and third and fourth books in the Traveling Tootsie series. Until then, we should encourage everybody to check out travelingtootsies.com and thank our guests for being with us. Thanks, Karen. Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast, and we hope that you'll join us for the next exciting episode of the show. To make sure you don't miss a moment of the show, please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Stitcher Radio, wherever you get your podcasts. big thanks going out to my team, Fatima Khan, Rory Grady, Jordan Saley, Will Cheever, Cassandra Masonet, Stephanie Davila. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, and as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.